What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. Just getting some range time in today. I'm not doing any ballistics tests today, just testing out some ammo, shooting some groups at various distances. I got my AR-10 here, chambered in .308 Winchester. This is a POF Rogue, Patriot Ordnance Factory Rogue. And I got some Ammo Inc. FMJ ammo that I'm testing. This stuff is pretty hot for some M80 ball. I get around 2650 feet per second out of my 16-inch barrel. So I'm going to hit some long range targets with this today. I'm going to go out to 800 yards. I've already hit at 500 yards with this ammo, and it grouped really well. I did some groups with holding over with my reticle and then also dialing with my scope. And my adjustment was around 10 MOA, and I was dead on at 500. And I have this thing zeroed for 200 yards. So I'm going to hit some groups today at 800 yards with the Ammo Inc. M80 ball ammo. And I'm not exactly sure what the ballistics coefficient is on this particular ammo, but I'm guessing it's like 0.4 if it's just a standard M80 ball bullet, which I think it is. So I'm going to go out to 800. I'm going to hold over with my reticle. I'm going to dial in, shoot a couple groups, see how my drop is, what my drop is at that distance, and see if my ballistics calculator is correct. You always want to actually shoot your ammo at various distances to confirm if what your ballistics calculator is telling you is correct. And that's something that I don't see a lot of people doing. They just trust their ballistics calculator and think that they don't really need to practice much at long range. But, you know, you just never know. There's a lot of variables. Your ballistics calculator could be off a little bit. So it's a perfect day to shoot. We don't have much of a wind today. And I also have some targets set up at 100 yards, 50 yards, and 25 yards. You see the silhouette target right there, and then that little red and yellow target there. Those are mine. And I'm going to hit those with my Burris Fast Fire red dot that I have mounted on the top of my scope. I just want to double check and make sure the zero is still good, because I did bump this rifle a couple of times. So I'm just a little bit anal about, you know, making sure my zero is still where it needs to be. That's the Burris Fast Fire 3. I don't have it turned on right now. So I'm going to hit some targets at 100, 50, and 25 yards. After I hit some long range targets at 800 yards, going to hold over and dial in, and then I'll also hit some targets at 500 yards as well. So 800 and 500 yards, holding over and dialing in, and then 100, 50, and 25 yards with the reflex sight mounted on top. So I haven't really shot this ammo extensively, so I just want to see what my groups are like at all these distances so I can adjust my ballistics calculations and my dope cards. So enough talking, and let's get started shooting. And I got my Silencer Co. Omega 300 on my rifle right now. Alright guys, first shots at 800 yards with the Ammo Inc. M80 ball. I dialed in 26 MOA, and I got a drop of 220 inches, and there's a very light crosswind, and with a 5-mile-per-hour wind, I get a wind drift of 3 feet at that distance. Okay, so I have to be really mindful of the wind. So let's see what happens here, guys. And I'm shooting a 10 power scope, so at 800 yards it's kind of not super detailed. All right, guys, so I just checked the spotting scope and looks like I was probably about 8 inches low with 26 MOA, but I'm actually going to drive up there and just double check with my own eyes because it's getting kind of dark out and it's hard to see with the spotting scope. I could only see one bullet hole. So I'm going to check and see where the other hits were, but one of the bullet holes was like about 8 inches low, so I probably have to dial up to 27 MOA. So what I'm going to do is check the target, come back, dial up to 27, shoot a couple more, see what happens. And I'm going to let the suppressor cool down. I always like to shoot on a cold bore, especially if I'm doing something like this where I'm trying to double check my groups and stuff like that. So still pretty close, you know, that's still pretty close. Only 8 inches off, so that's not a big deal. All right, guys, so I'm going to go to 500 now. I'm going to hold 10 MOA high with the reticle at 500. See what happens. I'm going to close off the gas a little bit too, so I don't get that blowback in my face. We got a slight breeze now. Slight breeze from right to left, crosswind. So I'm going to hold just a little bit to the right. I'm going to hold on the right side of the target. All right, guys, so looks like I had 2 hits. I was actually aiming like right in this area here, and you can see how the wind blew the bullets over about 1.5 feet. Each one of these squares is 1 inch. So I got 1 hit here, so that was dead on. And then I had 1 hit low, and this one looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 1 foot low here and then dead on here. So this could have been just operator error. I actually don't think I had my scope dialed all the way up to 10 power on that one, and the reason why is because it's colder out here. It's in the 30s, and you know the dial knobs get a little bit stiff when it's cold. I thought I had it cranked up to 10 power, and that's why I was a little bit surprised why I couldn't get a good sight picture at this distance. It was kind of zoomed out. So I was at like 6 power. So I'd say that's pretty good for 6 power. You know, first time at 800 yards with this ammo. I say that's pretty good. That is a big group though, but remember 6 power. So I'm gonna dial up to 10 power, and I'm also gonna dial up my elevation to maybe 26.5 or 27 and take a couple more shots and see what happens. And I know my 500 yards is going to be off now because I was holding high at 10 MOA, and that's a second focal plane scope. So if I wasn't dialed in to 10 power, I would be off. So let's see what happened at 500. So I'd say it's pretty good though. So there's the 500-yard target. You can see I didn't make any hits, and that's because I forgot I was at 6 power, not 10 power. That's the downside to a second focal plane scope. I was rushing a little bit and I wasn't paying attention. I thought I had it dialed all the way up, but as you see, I missed completely. So I'm gonna dial up to 10 and we're gonna hit this again, hold 10 MOA high and see what happens. So dial up to 10 on the magnification and hold 10 high. Alright guys, so now I have the scope dialed up to 10 power. That's what happens when you rush. You know, the days are so short. I was in a rush, I wasn't paying attention. So I got it dialed up to 10 power. I'm gonna hit the 800 yards with 27 MOA of adjustment. Let's see what happens. Alright guys, so now I'm going to hit the 25, 50, and 100 yards with the fast fire. Got a pretty strong breeze now, seems to be picking up. I'm going to hit the 25 now, 25 yards. Here we go. Alright guys, so here's my 3-shot group at 25 yards. I was holding right here. This was my point of aim, and this was my point of impact. You can see 3 holes right there. That's pretty tight for a red dot, and that's a very small red dot. And I have it set up this way on purpose. I have it 2 inches low at 25 yards, so this way at 50 yards it should be right around dead on. And then 100 yards, it'll be just a little bit high because I have a canted scope mount. So it's a 20 MOA cant on my scope mount. So it's going to be shooting a little bit high at 100. So I have to dial it in so it's low at 25. So let's hit 50 yards and then 100 yards and see what happens. Alright guys, 50 yards, burst fast fire. Let's see what we get. Alright guys, so here's the 50-yard target with the burst fast fire. I was aiming right in the middle, right where that red circle is. You can see dead on guys. 3-shot group, just absolutely perfect, perfection. So as you see, 2 inches low at 25 yards makes me dead on at 50. And I think at 100 I'll be probably 2 to 4 inches high. So let's see what happens at 100 now. And here's my 100-yard target. I was aiming at that red circle there, or oval. And you can see the 2 bullet holes. That's about 2 or 3 inches high. So my red dot is still dead on. It's always good to confirm, because you never know when you're handling your gun. If something happens, you bump it and it could knock the zero off, especially a reflex sight that's mounted on the top of a scope. It sticks out, so it's easy to hit it against something like a tree, or even just in your car, you can bump it against a seat or something. So as you see, about 2 inches high at 100, dead on at 50, and 2 inches low at 25. So I'd say that's really good for a reflex sight. Look at that group, guys. That's just with a reflex sight. It's incredible. Really good group. So I just want to show you the targets side by side. 25, 50, and 100 yards with the burst fast fire. So there's my 25 yard. All right, you can see 2 inches low. I was aiming right under the red circle. Okay, 2 inches low exactly. Nice tight group there. 50 yards, basically dead on. And then 100 yards, about 2 to 3 inches high. So there you have it, guys. I'd say that's pretty good. I'm very happy with that. All right, guys, so here were my hits at 500. You can see the 5 bullet holes here. I was aiming right in the middle, actually a little bit off to the right. I was kind of holding right here, right where this bullet is over here. I was holding right there because there was a little bit of a crosswind, and it blew my bullets right where I wanted them to be. Got one flyer up at the top. That's probably just me, shooter error. But as you can see, 4 out of the 5 shots, the elevation was basically dead on. I'm not too concerned about this outlier right here, because that has to do with the wind. I'm more concerned with up and down. And as you can see, we had 2 hits basically dead on. Got one right there and then one right there. So if we average these 4, we're basically dead on with 10 MOA at 500 yards with that Ammo Inc. M80 ball ammo. So I'd say this was a good session, guys. This is what you have to do. You got to actually go out to the range and test your ammo at different distances, especially if you plan to actually use that ammo for hunting or for self-defense. You have to actually check the dope, check the adjustments. So you can't just go off of what a calculator says. They're usually accurate. I've never had any issues with them. But just for my own mental well-being, I like to just double check everything. So I came back to the range because I wasn't satisfied with my shots at 800 yards. I wanted to take a few more shots at 800, and it was getting dark. I didn't have enough time to shoot at 800, so I'm back at the range now. And I'm going to take a few more shots at 800. Get that squared away. All right, guys, I'm going to take 3 more with 27 MOA. I just want to get a lot of shots on paper just to eliminate the possibility of human error. But it looks like 27 MOA still about 8 to 12 inches low, so I should be right around 28 MOA would probably be ideal. Let's see here what happens. All right, guys, so here we are, 800 yards. I think it's actually 820 or 810. So these were some of my hits. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there were some hits up here. I'm not sure what those were from. But it looks like, and then there's a hit over here. And I was aiming like kind of along this yellow line, but I was holding out here because there's a little bit of a wind, and so it blew my bullets right in. And so it looks like 27 MOA. I'm kind of grouping like right in this area. So still a couple inches low, probably about 4 to 8 inches low if we count some of these outliers like this one and that one. So probably going to be around 27.5 or even 28 MOA to get dead on. But I'm very happy with these groups at 800 yards. I mean, that's pretty tight for an AR. You know, you're looking at maybe a 4 to 5 inch group at 800 yards. That's pretty good. And that's with a hot barrel too, because I wasn't really resting that much because sun's going down again. So I guess I'm probably going to have to dial up to like 27.5 to get dead on where I want to be. But still, these are all good shots. You know, if we're talking about just taking a bad guy down or a zombie at 800 yards, 820 yards, these shots would be fine. So I'm going to cover these holes up with tape, and I'm going to take a couple with 28 MOA. See what happens with 28. All right, guys, so I dialed up to 27.5. Let's see what happens at 27.5. All right, guys, 800 yards, 27.5 MOA. I think this is basically where I want to be. So I was kind of rushing, so I was shooting with a hot barrel. So I'm not expecting these groups to be super tight. I just kind of want to see, you know, what the drop is. So looks like we had one hit right here, one hit right there, one hit right there. It's more or less aiming in line with this yellow line, but I was holding off to the right. I was holding like out here. So even just this light breeze, 2 or 3 mile per hour breeze, blew my bullets all the way out here. So it looks like 27.5 is where I want to be at this distance. It's really 820 yards, not 800. They gotta repaint that. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. You always want to go out there and double check your ammo, see what the drop is, double check everything. So that's all I got for this one. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere.